Geek Battle YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing another figure review, and today we have here the Masters of the Universe Revelation He-Man figure. Now this is an interesting figure because I know the series that it is based on specifically was super controversial. However, I think what everyone did agree on is that the design of the characters looked great and the design of the figures is equally as great, even if people didn't really like the series. Now the series, with so many of these things that we have been looking at on this channel, it plays into nostalgia. So people who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, they have nostalgia for certain brands like He-Man, like Ninja Turtles, like Power Rangers, and so on and so forth, Ghostbusters, that kind of stuff. And nowadays they're doing modern sequels, modern remakes or whatever, which are designed to appeal to fans of those original series. Masters of the Universe Revelation was a sequel series to the original He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon, but it didn't put much focus on He-Man, hence why it was called Masters of the Universe Revelation, not He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Revelation. And He-Man didn't feature terribly much in it. He was prominent in the first episode, and then he wasn't. I feel like I won't give the spoiler for why. Well, I will. It's very well known. They kill off He-Man in the first episode, and then Teela becomes the main character for the next several episodes, until eventually they do something where they resurrect He-Man, and then they seemingly kill him straight away again before they go into like a mid-season break. And then when they bring it back, they find a way to bring back He-Man again, but he's mostly Prince Adam. Then he's like the barbaric He-Man, or whatever that version of He-Man is called, before eventually becoming proper He-Man, like towards the end again, I believe. I kind of forget, I've kind of blocked it out, just because it wasn't the problem that they focused on other characters. It's that it was the He-Man show and it didn't really have He-Man in it. And people who grew up in the era that would be interested in watching this new, they just wanted to see He-Man fight Skeletor. And Skeletor wasn't in it that much either, so it was a little bit of a mess. Hopefully they'll do better when they make like the next version. I think they are making a new series. But anyway, so let's have a look here, because even this, on the back here, it shows that the characters that this is advertising, He-Man, Mossman, Skeletor and Evil-Lyn, doesn't even show Teela, but it says also available. I mean, it doesn't list others, but there are other characters available. I think there are a bunch more others that you can get in this line. Here it acknowledges that it's based on the Netflix show, and it looks great. Now the thing that's interesting about this to me is that like the chest is smaller than what like you'd think, or like the legs are longer. The He-Man figures from back in the day in the 1980s, like the legs all had a slight bend in them, and so this feels a lot lankier, and they were like very shoulder heavy, very chest heavy. And so whilst this looks great and it looks like the version of the character that we remember, but just in a slightly more modern art style that still fits the old designs, it just feels like they've changed the proportions of the character ever so slightly, so they're not so upper chest heavy, and it's just a bit more of a actual build of a real human, which isn't a bad thing. But there we see the Sword of Power, there we see He-Man's shield, and somewhere around here I actually have one of the original He-Man figures, Swords of Power. I should have found it out before I did this review. I do have an original Battle Cat right here, and I figured since I've got it within hand's reach, I'd bring it here just to support my efforts here. But I thought we'd take a look at this He-Man. Obviously, it's got the usual He-Man armor that we all remember him wearing. The skirt, I don't know what else to call it, but the loincloth, I don't know, the trunks that he's wearing, they're a bit more droopy than what I remember, because they may have had that texture, but I don't remember them hanging down quite so low as what we're seeing here. They probably did. But there we see like the fantastic artwork, which is like you see in the show, or even if it's not exactly like in the show, it's artwork to match what they do in the show. There we see He-Man again on the back. He-Man, Mossman, Skeletor and Evil-Lyn. Now they absolutely made this as a series for adults, for the fact that in the series, like, Skeletor does end up with the Sword of Power, and Evil Lyn seduces him to get it off him. It's unbelievable. But this is a very cool figure. Now, I've got some other He-Man figures that we're going to take a look at individually, but just as I've done in other series, we'll bring all these figures mostly together when we go through them later. But this, even though it's not an original He-Man figure, it shows you like the differences of the proportions. So you can just see he's much wider on the chest, much rounder on the shoulders, whereas this one feels a little bit like they don't want him to be quite as big and buff as this. But you can still see that it really looks good. I've seen some fantastic stop motion animation that one guy does. Shout out to whoever it was. This was like a year ago when these first came out. Who did this battle between He-Man and Skeletor just using these figures, and it was absolutely incredible. Must have taken ages to achieve, and I'm not even sure what you do with that, because it's cool for social media, but where do you take that after that? Maybe Netflix appreciated it, maybe they commissioned it, I don't know. But this is a really cool figure, so even if you're not a fan of Masters of the Universe Revelation and some of the choices they made in the storytelling there, or the lack of focus on He-Man, this is still one of the coolest He-Man figures I have ever seen. So that is pretty much going to wrap it up on this one for today. As we go further through this series, I'm going to focus on some of the other iterations of He-Man, because there's been a couple of others in recent times, and we're also, for the next video, going to focus on Skeletor. So make sure you smash that... Make sure you smash that subscribe button. See how I just covered the fact that like my throat kind of like clicks as I was trying to say that. I made it as if I was emotional about it. But make sure you smash that subscribe button on youtube.com/@geekbattlegaming. I'm going to have to watch that clip back, and if it just looks like I'm like suffering, like I'm suffocating in the middle there, I'll cut it. But if not, put any comments if you like the video, what else you'd like me to cover, what your thoughts are on this, if I should unbox it. Because obviously you can't quite see everything when it's in the box, but it's such a nice collector's piece, you know, and I'm not going to be playing with them, but it's just because I love the geek nostalgia, and, you know, it's like my second childhood, or maybe my third, who knows. But Masters of the Universe, you know, that was like the first, like, cartoon series and set of figures that I had, that along with like Superman and Spider-Man, but like the first cartoon that was like regularly on TV that I would be watching was Masters of the Universe, He-Man, She-Ra and all that stuff. So to be able to see this, the new version, and have the chance to get this now, I think this is a really cool display box as well. Lots of detail there, obviously all of the, like, I don't know what the markings are, but they look very cool. But anyway, I've already said my thing. Make sure you subscribe, give some comments, and ciao for now.